inches of snow. Where we live doesn't snow because we're too close to the ocean and how it regulates. Well, we got snow and collapsed things. I mean, we're not ready for snow. Then we had COVID. Then my husband had surgery. COVID took months because one got in, then the next, then the next, then the next, then the next, and there's 6 of us, so it's been isolating, obsessively cleaning everything. It's just to name a few. Okay, I did record an audio for Patreon yesterday, and I shared it. So if you are part of the Patreon family, go check it out. This video is gonna be boring because I have nothing on my computer. I'm doing this video directly on iMovie with a black background, but I'm going to add backgrounds and stuff until I have my final setup where I'm gonna be able to sit in front of the computer. But my friend, I have a goat that is about to give birth, and she keeps scaring me each week with something different. She ate a squirrel. I mean, I don't know. It's been. Another one of my goats decided to eat a hook, and the hook got hooked into the inner part of the cheek. I can keep going, but I need a violin and I don't have one, so we are also gonna enjoy some nice white noise from my computer fan that loves to make an entrance. And before I start with today's case, which by the way, this is my own personal time reading, which sounds creepy, but I wasn't going to share this story based on an article that I read on Crime ID, and but I find these things amusing. So that's why I thought my friends on YouTube, I'm sure they're gonna enjoy it too. So if you're new, I would love for you to subscribe if you enjoy true crime and ASMR. If you are already subscribed, please take a few seconds of your time right now and leave a comment. It can be an emoji, it can be whatever you want to share with me. If you're new, just say hi so I can give you the welcome. And I have a few subscribers that when they rewatch a video, they leave a comment saying, "Here for the algorithm." I mean, you can leave whatever you want. Of course, trying to be nice to everyone. But thank you for doing that. By commenting and liking this video, you are helping me for free to share this video with more people. You don't have to share it on your socials, but if you do that for me, you are, with your like and comment, sharing my videos with more people, because YouTube thinks if her subscribers enjoy this content enough to interact, we need to share this video with more people so they can interact and enjoy the content too. Now, this is the 3rd time I'm gonna start this video. I don't know what's wrong with me, but apparently the voice was not being recorded. Yeah. But we're talking about a little bit of CSI, or crime scene investigation. I don't watch the show. My dad loves it. I don't know which one he loves of those. Is it there's different cities, right? Anyways, this is a true CSI investigation, and it kind of, I think I have to preface this by talking about crime scenes. Now, you and me, we've watched enough of these videos to know that a crime scene is important in every murder. Why is that? Because it throws information in your face, really. Now, I am working on another video, but I don't know if it's gonna go on Patreon or here. But this next video is about how your speech will give you away, even if you're texting somebody. Like, they can find murderers with that. So CSI is one of the, in my humble opinion, coolest things that we have today to find criminals and to put them behind bars. But we don't always have a crime scene, and you're thinking, there's a murder, there's a crime scene. Yes, there is. But sometimes people vanish from their homes and then they're murdered somewhere else. And unless the body is discovered, sometimes we're left with those vanishing cases where last time the person was seen was at their apartment, and then when they check the apartment, there are no signs of struggle. So, here comes the question: how do you solve a murder in the wilderness? Oh my goodness. If you've been following my channel, you know that I love the wilderness. I basically live in the wilderness. Our property, even though we do have a few people within 2 miles that live but around us, we have hundreds, if not thousands, of acres of wilderness around our property. We have all kinds of cats and coyotes and even wolves that are not typical to this area. Oh, bears too. Now, for me, it's that connection with nature, and I love it, and I connect a lot with this national park cases because that's my favorite place in the world to be at. Now, I know for some people that's dumb, but you take me to a national park and you'll make my day. I've been just to a few. Yellowstone. I saw grizzly bears. I mean, that was the coolest thing ever. I'm never gonna see a grizzly bear up close like that. It wasn't dangerous. We just stopped because we saw them on this area by the road. We've been to Tetons. I love Tetons. Oh, I love Wyoming. It's super cool, but it's super cold, so no thanks. Just in the summertime. I've been to what's that one? The tiniest one in Utah. It's not Arches, it's the other one. It's Capitol Reef. Love Capitol Reef. If you like the desert, you probably like it, but what you probably don't know is that there's about 300 people that vanish from this national parks. I'm talking American national parks. Some of them, they die in accidents, like they slip and fall. That's pretty typical. I think I've seen many cases in Hawaii too. You go to this wonderful cliffs, and if you're not, I am clumsy. I don't get close to the edge. I'm sorry. That's me only, but people do get so much to take amazing pictures. In some fall, but in other cases, do they fall or are they pushed? Some people just vanish and their bodies are never found, but you know that they're dead. There's no way that the people are still alive because of where they went missing. So there's like a branch of law enforcement, and they're basically special agents of the National Park Service. I had no idea there was such a thing. So we're gonna briefly go through a case just to make a point, okay? But I think I shared this case with you. If I did, I'm gonna look it up on my channel and link it down below. But I don't know if I remember it because I watched it on a video or if I share it. But as you know, we don't have cell service or Wi-Fi available where we live, so I can't Google it right at this moment or search in my channel. But this case is about somebody that called right around 6 p.m. on September 29th, 2012. And it was a man saying that his wife had fallen from a rock on the north summit of Deer Mountain. He said that she had a pretty bad fall, and he also said that she fell about 30 to 40 feet. So to me, that's kind of okay, you're dead. But of course, he was asking for help and provided his location. He said that he was standing by his wife's body and that he was trying CPR and trying to help. And this is her. I didn't write it down here. I'm sure it's gonna show up somewhere. But this is in the Rocky Mountain National Park in northern Colorado. So of course help arrived, but it was 2 hours later. And this ranger, I mean, you think that a ranger is just a guy working in the forest who doesn't have a social life, or that maybe it's not the brightest light bulb in the room. But listen, they know their things, okay? And the ranger, he kind of suspected that something was up here. She was not breathing. She didn't have a pulse, and so she was dead by the time that help arrived. Now the husband explained that this was supposed to be a romantic weekend, and that he couldn't believe that it ended in this tragic accident, which is not uncommon, as we mentioned before. But the ranger noticed something. The wife was wearing lipstick, and it was perfectly applied. Now, if the husband was giving CPR and trying to help his wife, why weren't there any visible signs of his efforts? But then he also found Tony's camera, which is a big piece of evidence, and had no damage. So it didn't add up. It would have fallen with her. It just wouldn't add up. After that day, of course, they were investigating this, and they realized that this was not the first time that the husband, I'm looking for his name, Hanthorne is the last name, but Tony was the wife, and I can't the first name of the husband, but when they looked into his background, they his wife had an accident while they were alone on a trip together in the year 1995. Now, apparently, they had a flat tire, and his wife at the time, Lynn, was helping him. And when she crawled under the vehicle to retrieve a lug nut, the car then slipped off the jack that was holding it and crushed her. I mean, you just have to be like a final destination kind of guy to think about killing your wife that way, but hey, what do I know? Of course, like Tony's case, his second wife, he was the only witness, which made it even more suspicious. But to make things worse, I mean, this guy, again, he wasn't very bright. And he had a map in his vehicle with an X marked on the spot where Tony had fallen to her death. And when they asked him, he said that he was at a loss for words to explain it. I mean, listen, you better have a good explanation for that. If I'm asking you, it's as simple as we wanted to take a picture there. You know, just say something, but if you're at loss for words, you lost me right there. Okay, so in the end, he finally came up with an explanation, and he said that something that really didn't make sense. And at this point, even the park ranger believed that this was a murder, with no witness and little evidence. So he called the investigative services branch, and Agent Beth Schott, who is a 20-year veteran of the National Park Service, was assigned to the case. Now, 33 agents were working at the time in this branch, I guess, and it was only founded in the year 2003 to investigate specifically crimes committed in America's national parks. Whenever there's an assault, murder, rape, or missing person reported, the National Park Service calls the ISB, that is basically responsible for 423 national parks and recreation areas. And this is 133,000 square miles. Okay, fun fact, that's the size of Montana. That's cool to know. No pressure for these people, right? Now, the special agents are often out in the mountains and forests searching for any kind of evidence that might not be the obvious thing that it may not be obvious even for an FBI agent. But the vast majorities that the crimes that they investigate are against people. It's rape, homicide, and even, everything really in between. The agent said, quote, "People bring their problems with them to the parks. In the past 100 years, some 1,600 have simply vanished. 1,600 people have simply vanished without a trace. In most cases, they believe it was a fatality. Sometimes it's just traffic accidents, falls, drowning, a bear, a mountain lion attack. There are reasons for many of these deaths, but in some cases, they have to look closer and longer. Like in the case I was sharing with you. and thorn case, and they are discussing the situation with the ranger that was at the crime scene. The key to them to solving this case was somewhere up there in Deer Mountain Trail, where she had been hiking with her husband. So they went through Harold, that's his name, Harold's statements over and over again. He had told the ranger that they were off to a romantic time. So they retraced their footsteps and found the terrain was very steep and rocky. It would have been something that you would have to go down on all fours and carefully pick her way down, climbing around trees and over rocks and stumps to get to the place where she had fallen. So it was not the most romantic thing ever. It was actually a rough trail. They were in their 50s. Tony had bad knees. So why would they go into this trail that really, maybe it's for a more of a professional. Harold recounted how Tony had spotted a flock of wild turkeys, which, again, sometimes they give information that seems irrelevant and then it goes crazy. What they can make out of that. He mentioned that after running into this flock of wild turkeys and started down a rocky slope to a ledge where she could take a photo. That's what he was saying. And that she was standing on the small ledge with just enough room for one person. He said that she asked him to take the picture with the turkeys. Well, come over here. We have turkeys everywhere. Wild turkeys everywhere. You don't have to take a picture. You're like, get out of my way. Then he said that she stepped backward and basically fell. But the drop was not 30 or 40 feet like he said to the 911 operator. It was close to 150 feet. Now, he could have been terrible with measurements like I am. But it was really not a good romantic time for a couple in their 50s. Soon after, the first snowfall came, which made this investigation impossible. So they continued to question Harold, his friends and relatives. He said that his business was fundraising for churches and charities, and that it was going well. Apparently, this was all a facade, and there was no website or known clients. His tax returns had no income reflecting on it, and there was no evidence that he had earned much of anything during his 12 years of marriage to Tony. So if he had murdered her, they would have needed a lot of evidence for a jury to convict him. But when they got the coroner's report, the agent saw that it was enough to shock anyone. The fall was so terrible, was so hard that she lacerated her liver. I mean, that is crazy. She had a wound on her head and it was massive. She bled out, basically. So when the coroner did the autopsy, he had a really hard time even getting a blood sample from her because she didn't have any blood left. saying everything that he was doing to resuscitate her. At 7:30 p.m., more than 90 minutes after her fall, he sent a message that he was unable to find a pulse. But according to the coroner, Tony must have been dead for at least half an hour at that point. They also found that with a GPS spinning thing, they also found out that he was there before their trip. 9 times, apparently. Maybe he was surveying the area. So they continued to dig into his background. And of course, the ISB, their boundaries are national parks. So to find out more about the suspect, which would be out of their jurisdiction, they actually got help through the National Park Services in Denver, and went to Denver, I should say, where they were living at the time. The Hanthorns were living at the time. It didn't take too long to discover that Harold was not a hard-working family man that he claimed to be. His friends described him as a church-going man who raised money for church and charities. But there was no evidence of a job. Apparently, there was also a report that the employees at this Panera place were very scared of him and had only the manager take his orders. Apparently, there was another side of Harold. He was a manipulative, and not only that, but he had a terrible temper. Tony was not allowed to talk to her parents on the phone unless he wasn't in the room, and she could call to her by herself. Then they figured the life insurance. She was insured for $1 million, each with her daughter as the beneficiary. Harold had 2 additional policies worth $3 million that covered Tony's life. The insurance also played a big role, as you can probably tell, in this investigation. He received more than $500,000 after she died. So of course they started to reinvestigate Lynn's death 17 years earlier, his first wife. Apparently he kept in touch with Lynn's family, and after his second wife died, they released a statement. Quote, "The baffling circumstances surrounding Tony's death gave us a strong sense of deja vu. As the investigation progressed, it became clear that Harold Hanthorn was not the man we thought we knew, and that he had in fact been lying to us for many years." End quote. By the time the case came to trial in 2015, there was more than enough evidence, of course, to convict Harold. He received a mandatory life sentence for pushing his wife to her death. For Agent Beth at ISB, the conviction validated her work and confirmed that even in the wilderness of a national park, with no witnesses and little evidence, there will be a reckoning for murder. There are pictures of the Jeep and the site of the accident of his first wife. It's kind of on the side of the road with, like it's on top of is with the front of the Jeep in the lower part. And then there's also another picture of the second wife, Tony, who was the breadwinner of the family, that this guy also killed. So, I don't know what they were trying to find out with this thing. It seemed like once they started to look into his background, they were able to put together a case. Now you have to understand that these agents have a race against time. And in contrast with many urban scenarios, the majority of crimes committed in the national parks happened outdoor. That's why ISP agents do their best to get to a crime scene before it rains or snows, which can basically erase important evidence. Another thing I found interesting is that these ISP agents are involved in every year. ISP agents are involved in the investigation of approximately 600 criminal acts that happened in a national park, like things as environmental offenses, drug dealing, poaching. But then there are also more serious ones like assault, kidnapping, rape, murder. At the same time, agents continue to work on so-called cases, such as, a visitor that disappeared without a trace. Now I'm gonna give you 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, the top 10 deadliest national parks. About 330 million people visit one of America's 423 national park sites in an average year. A study of the mortality figures from 2006 to 2016 reveals where the most death occurs and how they happen. For example, one of the deadliest, I'm going to say number one deadliest national park in America, it's Lake Mead. It's the National Recreation Area, I should say. And there's like, way too many swimming accidents. Falls are the number one cause for accidents in Yosemite, which is number 2 of the deadliest national parks. We have to say Lake Mead, the National Recreation Area, has about 254 murders or deaths in a year. Yosemite, 150. For those of you who are not from the US, Lake Mead is in the Nevada, Arizona border, and it kind of takes place on both states. Yosemite it's in my bucket list, and it's in California, Northern California. Then number 3 is the Grand Canyon. That's also very well known for accidents like falls, and with 130 people either vanished or dead. Then number 4 is Yellowstone National Park, which is the Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho border, with 93. The Golden Gate National Recreation Area in California, San Francisco, it's 85. Glen Canyon National Recreation Area. This one, it's in the border of Utah and Arizona, covers on both states with 82. National Park and Preserve. That's also on my bucket list. With 62, this is in Alaska. Great Smoky Mountains National Park in the Tennessee and North Carolina border. With 60, well, I'm glad this is number 9, which is Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming, with 59. And then number 10 is Natchez Trace Parkway, which is Mississippi, Alabama, and Tennessee, with 56. It's funny how almost not every national park, but most of them, they're in the border with another state, and you can enter through either if there's 2 or 3 entrances. Now I have to put my grain of salt in this case, of course, and just give you a few of my thoughts. Some people look forward to that, some other ones don't, but you can skip it if you don't care. As hard as it is to commit a murder and get away with it in a typical setting, going to a national park to do this, I think it's a little bit extreme. And if you're having a hard time with your wife or with your husband, or if you're fighting, or if you're going through a divorce and there's an accident, I feel like it triggers something more of an investigation with more people. However, when there's no background, like this case had a lot of background and a lot of fishy things happening. But whenever that's not the case, you have to understand that sometimes these people do get away with it because it was an accident, and accidents happen every year. As we were going through these numbers, it's easier to see. But to be honest, I think that this kind of crimes are just some twisted thing that belongs in a sci-fi movie. If you have to push somebody off a cliff to get away with something that you want or what that you need, please and thank you, no. I feel like it takes a certain kind of person to put aside their emotions and get rid of somebody that they love in such a horrible way. And I think if she stayed alive, in this case Tony, for between 20 minutes and an hour, they say that, I don't know, was she was she suffering? Was she conscious? I just think that it takes a certain kind of person to take somebody to a national park to get rid of them, which kind of rubs me the wrong way, because if you remember, the Vallow family, am I remembering that last name right? I hope so. The new husband was a cult leader, and the wife, Lori, I'm hoping that's her name, and the 2 kids, the teenager girl and the little son, I can't remember their names, it's escaping my mind. They went to Yellowstone, and honestly, after I realized that they were at fault and that they found the body and everything, I just didn't care to look for more information about it, because it really breaks my heart when a parent has the ability to do that to one of their children. And the idea that a kid is thinking that they can't trust even their own parents because they can harm them, it just breaks my heart. But I remember they took a trip to Yellowstone where they tried something and maybe didn't work. Well, it's totally possible. We've covered cases where people vanish. I love those cases. I have a thing for those cases. I read a book about all the different cases voices on the 411 book. And despite me not agreeing with the writer, is David Paulides, he has a few theories. I don't agree with his theories, honestly. Some of them involve Bigfoot. I don't know the explanation. I don't have one. I can't sit here and say, well, I know what happened to them, or I don't have a theory. But for whatever reason, it really is not giving me Bigfoot vibes. I don't know. He has other theories too, so please don't believe that this is it. But anyways, all I'm saying is, I find these cases amusing. I mean, I love to read about it. The CSI part of it in the wilderness, it's just, I want to read more about it because I think it's so smart and so, I mean, I'm sure we're in diapers and this kind of thing, but I just think it's amazing that we can still pursue this kind of investigations, even when the crime scene, it's a lot trickier than a typical one. But I wouldn't stop going, as I always say, to a national park, to a trail, to a lake, to camping. I wouldn't stop going because I'm afraid I'm gonna disappear like Polly. Do you remember Polly, who went on a hike with her friends and then she decided to run ahead and never was seen again? I honestly think that a lot of those things have to do with foul play and our inability to deal with every situation. Maybe we don't have resources. I don't know. But I'm hoping that this kind of cases, if you're as obsessed as I am, they don't discourage you to live your life. I feel like sometimes when we watch too many true crime cases, we can be a little bit more aware of people and things happening around us and thinking the worst of people. And I'm hoping that's not the case for you. Now that it gives you an ability to see things with different eyes, I mean, by all means, that's exactly what I am giving myself. I am making myself sleepy. I want to yawn, but I'm not going to. Did you miss me? I ramble a lot. Anyways, the thing with this is that I feel like what is meant to be, it will happen no matter where you are. Like when somebody tells me that they're jealous and that they don't want, that not now, but I used to know people that were like, oh, I am so jealous, I don't want my wife to work. And I'm like, you know that your wife goes to the store and she goes and put gas, and if she's gonna leave you for the guy at the grocery store, or maybe the guy that pumps her gas. Well, that doesn't happen everywhere. Here in Oregon, somebody pumps our gas, but that's not the point. The point is, I think your destiny will meet you wherever you are. So these people deserve to die? No way. But I'm sure the husband would have found another way to get rid of Tony, as he did with his first wife. So I don't like to think that our lives are marked to an end with a tragedy, and that we can't avoid it. But I'm also inclined to think that when it is your time, no matter where you are and how hard you're trying to hide from who you think is going to harm you, it just never works. So it's been 47 minutes of me talking to you about one of my favorite subjects. Now, I hope something in nature that speaks to me. So when these things happen in that perfect setting, it makes me want to know more about it. I had to cough, so I had to cut the video that I don't like. But anyways, I appreciate you coming back to the channel, for being patient with me. And please remember to comment if you're still there. Let me know you stayed until